Are you a Subway lover? Before you step foot in another Subway restaurant, you need to see this. In this video, we're uncovering shocking truths about what might be lurking behind the scenes at one of the world's most popular sandwich chains. From questionable ingredient sourcing to surprising food preparation practices, there's more to your sandwich than meets the eye. If you care about what you're eating, your health, or simply want to make informed choices, this is a must-watch. Stick around to find out the truth before you grab your next sub. This could change the way you view fast food forever. 1. Tuna controversy. The controversy surrounding Subway's tuna has sparked outrage and raised serious questions about the integrity of the brand's food practices. It all began when two women from California filed a lawsuit against the sandwich giant, alleging that Subway's so-called tuna doesn't actually contain any real tuna. Disturbingly, lab tests conducted in 2021 seem to support their claims, identifying no detectable tuna DNA in the chain's tuna sandwich. If you thought you were biting into fresh, flaky tuna, the reality might be far from what you imagined. Subway, of course, attempted to defend itself, claiming that the DNA could have denatured during the cooking process. But ask yourself, does that explanation really hold up? Tuna is one of the most recognizable fish in the world, and if a scientist can't even find an ounce of its genetic material in a lab test, what does that suggest about the product you're consuming? Cooking doesn't erase. It raises suspicions about whether the tuna might be an artificial concoction, a blend of cheaper fish species, or something else entirely. This controversy is more than just a debate about a single sandwich ingredient. It cuts to the core of whether we as consumers can trust what we're eating. Transparency and honesty are essential for any restaurant, especially a global brand like Subway that caters to millions. People go into their local shop expecting a quick, affordable, and reliable meal. But what happens when long-standing trust is shattered? How are we supposed to feel after learning that the food we're consuming might not even be what it's marketed as? Even more alarming is the implication for health-conscious individuals and seafood lovers. If the tuna isn't really tuna, what else is in there? Are there fillers, preservatives, or undisclosed ingredients that could harm your body? Subway owes its customers clear answers, but has yet to convince the public with transparency. Pushing this issue deeper into the spotlight, the tuna controversy is a wake-up call to scrutinize what we're eating. Brands like Subway must be held accountable for every claim they make. Until they can prove their tuna is exactly what they advertise it to be, it may be wise to think twice before ordering that tuna sandwich. Your health and trust in food should never be second-guessed. 2. Bread issues at Subway. At first glance, Subway markets its bread offerings as freshly baked and wholesome, but when you dig beneath the surface, the reality is horrifying and deceptive. A glaring issue is the presence of azidicarbonamide, a shocking ingredient previously found in Subway's bread. This industrial chemical is commonly used in the production of yoga mats and shoe soles to create flexibility, yet Subway introduced it as a bread conditioner. Yes, you read that right. The same substance you might find under your feet was in the bread customers consumed for lunch. While Subway eventually removed azidicarbonamide from their recipes after a significant public outcry, it raises a significant red flag about the company's priorities. The question remains, why was such a controversial additive used in the first place? At what point did producing cheap and convenient bread outweigh the health and safety of customers? These questions linger, casting doubt on whether Subway would willingly prioritize health over profits without external pressure. But the horror show doesn't stop there. The bread's supposed freshness is also a facade. Subway stores are infused with what many believe to be the enticing aroma of bread baking in ovens, but this smell is actually engineered. It turns out that the fresh bread smell wafting through Subway locations is an artificially manufactured scent pumped into the air through the ventilation system. It's a psychological tactic, not unlike the strategies used by major corporations to manipulate customer behavior. The goal is simple: fool your senses, so you associate Subway with freshness, even if the reality of their practices involves questionable ingredients and misleading marketing. Adding to these concerns is the use of premixed dough. Subway doesn't need bread in their stores as they might have you believe. Instead, they rely on frozen, premixed dough sticks shipped from central facilities. This eliminates any illusion of the artisanal or fresh process Subway portrays in its ads and branding. Beyond being disappointing, this revelation solidifies the disconnect between Subway's marketing narratives and the truth, what's worse. Despite the short time the dough spends in Subway ovens, the final product still contains an array of preservatives and sugars, putting it far from any health-conscious choices many customers may expect. Perhaps the most shocking revelation is about their supposedly healthier bread options. Take the 9-grain wheat bread, for example, a variety Subway promotes as a nutritious and wholesome alternative. The problem? This bread contains more sugar than many candy bars. That's right. A product marketed for its health benefits is actually loaded with excessive sugar, making it anything but a healthy choice. To put this into perspective, you could easily be better off eating dessert than opting for one of these seemingly healthy menu items. It feels like a betrayal of trust. Not that fast food chains are widely known for healthy options, but Subway actively projects an image of being the healthier alternative, only for loyal customers to learn their diets might be sabotaged by these hidden sugars. The bread, often hailed as the foundation of any sandwich, should symbolize authenticity, nutritious value, and care. Instead, Subway's bread exposes a pattern of misleading practices and questionable priorities, undermining the brand's long-standing reputation as a healthy fast food alternative. Customers deserve transparency and food that genuinely aligns with marketing claims. But until Subway fully commits to these values rather than resorting to cost-cutting measures and deceitful optics, it's worth pausing to reconsider whether grabbing a sandwich there is truly worth the cost, not just to your wallet, but to your health as well. 3. Meat controversies. When it comes to Subway's meat, there's a dark side beneath the surface that many customers have come to question. The franchise markets its ingredients as fresh, but how authentic can this claim be when the meats are far from natural? Meat products at Subway undergo heavy processing that includes pre-cooking, pre-seasoning, and the addition of preservatives. These processes strip away the natural quality of the meat, leaving behind a product that might taste consistent across every location, but comes at a cost to authenticity and nutritional integrity. One of the most alarming aspects of Subway's meats is that they are what's called restructured meat products. This means that what you see isn't necessarily what you get. These meat slices or strips are not simply carved from whole cuts of beef, turkey, or chicken. Instead, they're a blend of various meat pieces, glue-like binders, and fillers, molded into uniform shapes for ease of storage and presentation. While this might make the sandwiches look visually appealing, it raises significant concerns about what consumers are truly eating. Adding fuel to the controversy, analyses of Subway's meats have revealed shocking results. For example, their chicken strips were found to contain only 50% chicken DNA. The remaining half consisted of soy protein and other unlisted additives. A far cry from the real, wholesome chicken we might expect. This lack of transparency about what is actually in Subway's products shatters consumer trust. People walk into Subway thinking they're making healthier choices, unaware that their grilled chicken could be more soy than poultry. The overprocessing of Subway's meats not only diminishes the nutritional value, but also raises questions about what long-term effects such artificial products might have on health. With meat containing preservatives and components from multiple sources, the mystery deepens as to whether these ingredients are even safe when consumed regularly. Customers who value transparency and quality are left questioning whether Subway truly represents eating fresh, or if it's a flagrant example of marketing over substance. If freshness and real, high-quality meat are important to you, then Subway's practices deserve a second look. Processed, restructured meats that barely resemble their natural counterparts are not what most consumers sign up for. Until more accountability and transparency are achieved, you may want to think twice before heading to Subway for your next meal. 4. Foot-long sandwich controversy. The foot-long sandwich controversy was a slap in the face to loyal Subway customers who trusted the brand's marketing and integrity. Imagine ordering a foot-long sandwich, expecting a hearty meal that matches the name, only to whip out your ruler and find it's barely 11 inches. This wasn't just a one-off mishap, it was a nationwide issue that exposed Subway's apparent lack of transparency and disregard for customer expectation. The very essence of their brand promise was shaken, leaving loyalists astounded and critics validated. Subway initially tried to brush off the outrage by claiming that footlong was a descriptive trademark rather than a literal measurement. That excuse? Insulting. Customers were essentially told that words don't matter when it comes to a sandwich you're paying good money for. It wasn't until a class action lawsuit was filed that Subway finally faced the music. And even then, their attempts to pacify the situation felt hollow to many. They promised to roll out better quality control measures, making sure their bread would meet size expectations. But why did it take a lawsuit for such a basic standard to be enforced? The most baffling part of it all was their reasoning. Subway attributed the variations in bread size to perfectly avoidable issues like temperature and humidity during the baking process. Sounds plausible, right? Not so fast. A brand as massive as Subway, the so-called leader in fast food sandwiches, should have mastered the art of consistency a long time ago. If they could standardize every slice of lettuce and measure out sauces with picture-perfect precision, why not the bread? This inconsistency revealed not only a failure in execution, but perhaps a more significant failure in accountability. For many, this controversy left a sour taste that no sandwich could fix. It sparked questions about whether Subway's other claims, like their fresh ingredients and healthy options, were equally questionable. If the company could cut corners on something as noticeable as the size of their sandwiches, what else were they quietly compromising on? Ultimately, the footlong sandwich controversy wasn't just about an inch or two less bread. It was about trust. Subway's unwillingness to uphold what they advertised signaled to their customers that their satisfaction wasn't the company's priority. It wasn't just a sandwich that fell short. It was the company's integrity. And that's something no amount of lettuce, tomato, or mayo can make up for. 5. Franchise system challenges. When it comes to Subway's franchise model, it doesn't take long to see the cracks beneath the surface. At first glance, owning a Subway franchise might seem like an appealing investment. After all, it's one of the most recognizable fast food chains in the world. But dig deeper and you'll find a broken system riddled with flaws and challenges, most of which trickle down and directly impact the food you eat and the workers behind the counter. One of the most glaring issues lies in the extraordinary costs associated with purchasing and running a Subway franchise, with upfront franchise fees ranging from $150,000, 0 cents, to $300, 0 cents, and mandatory purchases from Subway-approved suppliers at inflated prices. Franchise owners are financially squeezed from the start. It's a game rigged against them, designed to benefit the corporate machine at the expense of vulnerable entrepreneurs who poured their life savings into the dream of owning a small business. The result? Franchisees are forced into a constant battle to cut costs just to stay afloat. And those financial struggles lead directly to another grim reality: low profits. Imagine investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into a business and ending up with an average annual profit of just $31,000, 0 cents. That's the harsh truth facing many Subway franchisees. These razor-thin margins push owners to make tough decisions, and oftentimes those decisions have ripple effects, from slashing investments in proper training to overlooking facility maintenance. But who pays the price for this? The customers and employees. The situation worsens when you look at how poorly Subway treats its workers. Employee issues are rampant, with notoriously low wages, minimal training, and high turnover defining the labor situation at most locations. Without proper training, employees struggle to meet standards, impacting everything from food quality to customer service. Turnover rates leave stores understaffed, creating stress for workers and frustration for customers. To top it off, cost-cutting measures taken by struggling franchise owners often lead to concerning practices. Rushed training leaves staff unprepared. Poor maintenance results in unsanitary spaces, and questionable food safety practices sneak into daily operations. This all stems from a broken system that prioritizes corporate profits over the well-being of franchise owners, workers, and customers. And, as I shared earlier, even the franchise system challenges at Subway are a glaring reminder that what happens behind the scenes directly impacts what ends up on your plate. The bottom line: these systemic flaws should make anyone think twice before walking into a Subway again. Don't accept the mediocrity, the shortcuts, or the exploitation that fuels this business model. It's time to demand better for workers, for franchisees, and especially for you. 6. Health code violations. A closer look at the warnings. When it comes to the safety and cleanliness of the food you consume, there's no room for compromise. Unfortunately, Subway, a globally recognized fast food chain, has failed to meet these standards time and again. Over 2,000 of its locations received critical health code violations in 2023 alone. If that isn't alarming enough, the specific nature of these violations paints an even grimmer picture. Improper temperature control of meats and cheeses is one of the most frequent offenses reported at Subway locations. By failing to maintain safe temperatures, Perishable items like cold cuts and dairy products become breeding grounds for harmful bacteria, which could lead to severe foodborne illnesses. This isn't just a careless oversight. This is a fundamental failure to safeguard the health of customers. Cross-contamination is another widespread issue. Picture this. An employee slices bread, handles raw produce, touches money, and then uses those same gloves to prepare your sandwich. This negligence creates a perfect storm for germs, bacteria, and allergens to make their way onto your food. Subway's lack of stringent hygiene practices is not just unprofessional, it is downright dangerous. Mold in ice machines and food storage areas? Yes, that's been reported too. It's shocking to think that the ingredients meant to nourish you are being stored in compromised conditions. Mold exposure can lead to respiratory problems and other health issues, and yet this is a recurring problem in many Subway locations. Vegetables, often marketed as fresh and healthy, are another area of concern. Reports have surfaced about poor washing practices, meaning your so-called healthy choices may come with a side of dirt, pesticides, or worse. What's more, several locations have been cited for pest infestations, including cockroaches, ants, and mice. These aren't minor lapses, they're glaring red flags. Adding insult to injury, the equipment maintenance at some Subway locations seems almost non-existent. Broken thermometers, dirty cutting boards, and malfunctioning refrigerators are not the signs of restaurants that value quality or customer safety. Such neglect erodes trust and reflects a larger, systemic problem within the chain. Why take the risk? Dining at an establishment riddled with recurring health code violations is not only unappetizing, it's a threat to your health. These violations serve as a wake-up call for anyone who values their well-being. Until Subway commits to higher standards and remedies these alarming issues, it might be best to think twice before considering that next sub. 7. Rapid expansion and decline, the franchise empire that crumbled. Once hailed as the unstoppable king of fast food, Subway's meteoric rise through the early 2000s was nothing short of legendary. At its peak, it boasted more locations than McDonald's globally, but that explosive growth came at a devastating price, one that's been quietly ruining lives and businesses behind the scenes. And now, it's time you knew the truth. Subway's strategy wasn't just about growth, it was about domination. The company flooded cities, towns, and even rural communities with locations, sometimes placing 2 or 3 Subways within the same block. That might sound convenient for the customer, but for franchisees, it was a death sentence. Instead of enjoying a reliable revenue stream, owners suddenly found themselves competing with other Subways, literally across the street. Sales weren't just slipping, they were being cannibalized. Some locations saw revenue drop by as much as 40%, not because of better competition from outside chains, but because Subway turned on its own. Can you imagine pouring your life savings into a business, only to have the corporate office open a nearly identical store next door? That's exactly what happened. Subway wasn't just expanding, it was imploding from the inside. Over the course of a decade, the average store's revenue dropped from $480,000 to just $350,000. And that's before accounting for rent, labor, food costs, franchise fees, and marketing contributions. What looked like a golden opportunity quickly became a financial trap. Store owners were pushed to the edge, many falling off completely. Since 2015, more than 50 Subway locations have shut their doors, with 700 closures happening in 2023 alone. That's not just a number, those are families, small business owners, dreams crushed, retirement savings wiped out. And here's the kicker, many of them wanted to leave, but couldn't. Which brings us to the even darker part of this story. 8. Corporate control and franchisee struggles, the golden handcuffs no one told you about. Behind Subway's bright green and yellow branding lies a harsh corporate machine that's left thousands of franchisees trapped and bleeding money. While the public is lured in by $5.00 footlongs and cheery jingles, franchise owners have been stuck in a system that favors corporate profits over human well-being. Let's be clear, opening a Subway isn't cheap. Startup costs can run anywhere between $150,000 and $300,000, depending on location. Many hopeful entrepreneurs put their life savings, retirement funds, or massive loans into building their dream. But the dream quickly turned into a nightmare. Subway's franchise agreements are notoriously strict, some of the most rigid in the fast food world. Once you're in, getting out is nearly impossible without losing everything. Owners who saw their revenues plummet thanks to Subway's oversaturation strategy were left with few options. Selling the business? Forget it. In many cases, stores were valued less than the cost to open them. Imagine buying a new car and trying to sell it for half the price a week later. That's what Subway franchisees were dealing with, only on a much larger, more devastating scale. Desperation took over. Franchisees, in a bid to survive, began doing anything they could to keep the doors open. Some ran their stores solo, working 70-plus-hour weeks without help. Others tried to convert seating areas into small convenience sections, selling snacks, drinks, even lottery tickets, just to make ends meet. But even that wasn't enough for many. And the worst part? Corporate didn't help. In fact, many franchisees have accused Subway of being antagonistic, favoring expansion and fees over owner success. If a franchisee complained, they risked being labeled non-compliant. If they tried to sell, Subway had the right to block the sale or impose harsh conditions. It was like being shackled, golden handcuffs that promised security but delivered suffocation. The emotional toll was enormous. Many owners reported mental health struggles, marital breakdowns, and bankruptcy. Families were torn apart not by poor business acumen, but by a corporate strategy that viewed people as numbers, not partners. And the impact ripples out to you, the consumer. Behind that smiling sandwich artist and that eat fresh slogan is often a person just trying to survive. A family barely making it. A dream gone sideways. Is that the kind of business we should continue to support? 9. Employee and food safety concerns, a recipe for disaster. When you walk into a Subway, you expect your sandwich to be made with care, cleanliness, and consistency, but the reality behind the counter tells a very different story. One that should make every customer pause before placing their next order. Let's start with the people. Many Subway stores are so understaffed that employees, sometimes teenagers or first-time workers, are left to run entire shifts completely alone. Picture that for a second. One person managing the register, prepping ingredients, assembling orders, baking bread, cleaning the dining area, and handling mobile deliveries. All at once, during peak hours, with little to no formal training. It's not just unfair to the workers, it's unsafe. Food safety isn't something you can cut corners on, but that's exactly what happens when overwhelmed employees are forced to juggle multiple tasks. With no backup and minimal breaks, mistakes become inevitable. Gloves get reused between tasks, temperatures aren't checked, cleaning becomes an afterthought, not a priority, and worst of all, expired ingredients get used because no one's watching close enough to stop it. There are countless reports from former employees and insiders about food that should have been thrown away being used to save money. Wilted vegetables, old meats, tuna that sat out far too long, mayo-based salads mixed in containers that hadn't been properly sanitized. And it's not just rare incidents, it's a culture of cutting corners that's been allowed to fester under the radar. And where's corporate in all this? Aren't they supposed to be doing inspections to ensure quality and safety? Technically, yes. But according to multiple insiders, corporate inspections are often little more than performative checkboxes. Stores receive advance notice of upcoming visits, which gives employees time to rush a deep clean, rotate out expired food, and hide the real issues. It's all smoke and mirrors. Once the inspector leaves, it's business as usual, back to survival mode. This isn't just gross, it's dangerous. When a food chain handles fresh produce, meats, and dairy without strict adherence to safety protocols, you're flirting with serious health risks. Cross-contamination, improper storage, mishandled allergens, and foodborne illness outbreaks are very real possibilities. Now think about this. You may have already eaten one of those sandwiches. You may have fed one to your child. That's the part that stings the most. Subway's behind-the-scenes reality is not the wholesome, clean, friendly image you see in ads. It's a place where overworked, undertrained employees are pushed to their limits with very little support, and where food safety often takes a backseat to just keeping the lights on. 10. Overall impact, the fall of a giant and what it means for you. Subway wasn't just a restaurant, it was a movement. It promised healthier fast food, affordable prices, and the ability to customize your meal just how you like it. For years, it rode that wave to the top of the food chain, becoming the largest fast food franchise in the world. But that era is over, and the wreckage it left behind is undeniable. Let's put it all together. Subway's aggressive expansion strategy led to oversaturation. That meant more stores, more competition between franchisees, and a massive dip in average revenue per location. Franchise owners who once dreamed of financial independence were left struggling to survive, with some losing everything they had. Then came the corporate control issues. Contracts that locked in franchisees, valuations that plummeted, sales that were blocked or limited by the parent company. These weren't just business hiccups, they were systemic failures that destroyed livelihoods. Add to that the employee treatment and food safety problems, and you've got a business model built more on desperation than integrity. Workers burning out, safety protocols ignored, expired ingredients used out of necessity, not negligence. All of this hidden under a carefully polished public image. And now, the brand is suffering. Over 5,000 locations have closed since 2015, with 700 closures in 2023 alone. The average store revenue has dropped by $130.00 in a single decade. Customer trust is eroding. Franchisees are begging for help, and corporates still clinging to the same old playbook. What we're witnessing isn't just a corporate stumble. It's a full-on collapse of what was once the most powerful fast food brand in the world. Subway's story is no longer one of innovation and opportunity. It's a cautionary tale, a warning of what happens when greed outweighs care, when growth comes at the expense of quality, and when corporate giants forget the people who built them. So, what does this mean for you? It means every time you buy a sandwich at Subway, you're supporting a system that's failed its workers, its franchisees, and its customers. You're potentially eating food that wasn't handled properly, served by someone who's probably overwhelmed and underpaid. And you're funding a corporation that's been more focused on opening new stores than fixing the deep problems it already has. This isn't about cancel culture. This is about conscious consumerism. Knowing the truth, asking questions, demanding better from the places we spend our money. Don't eat at Subway again until you watch this. Until you understand the full story, because what you see in the commercials is a far cry from the reality behind the scenes. And once you know the truth, you may never look at that sandwich the same way again.